Poor education systems in developing nations. School systems in developing nations such as Tanzania, India, and Cuba have basic schooling structure and don't have access to qualified teachers or adequate school supplies of funds. Students need both qualified teachers and supplies in order to effectively learn. Education has both political, social, and economic values. As a result of adequate schooling, citizens will be able to lead more productive lives, and that will in turn increase literacy rates, which will help end poverty. I will argue that school systems in developing nations are significantly worse than school systems in richer countries because of the mismanagement and lack of funds, the cultural mismatch between the developing nations and the United States, and the overall lack of schools. In the United States, it is required that children attend school from kindergarten through 12th grade. But in developing nations such as Tanzania, India, and Cuba, that's not quite the case. According to the Education for Developing Nations, in Tanzania, for example, 81% of children aged 7 to 13 only attend primary school. Having 81% of students attend only for 6 years has a direct result on their quality of education. This leads to a decrease in reading levels, language and critical thinking skills, and inability to lead a productive life. Students will do just about anything to make it to school in developing countries at a young age. In a village in Sumatra in Indonesia, children climb on roped bridges over water to cross it to just be able to make it to school. And the rope bridge would collapse. All the children would have to walk across a tight rope in order to make it to the other side. Sometimes the rope bridge that they would have to cross would be over 30 feet long, and that's on top of a 7-mile trek to their school. Children in developing nations will go through just about any extent just to be able to attend school. But the question is, why is the government not doing anything to help the schools and the education systems? One of the main reasons for inadequate schooling in developing nations is the lack of teacher training. In Pakistan in particular, it's stated that the main problem was their education systems. The schools in Pakistan discovered that the teacher training did not just positively impact the students, but the teachers themselves as well. The teaching methods that they are learning are not only keeping the students focused on the topics, but are also actively engaged in them as well. It actually helped encourage longer learning among the students. In Pakistan, the number of teachers versus the number of spots in the program was very unstable and unbalanced. The number of spots in the teaching program filled up more quickly than all the applicants who have applied for them. Pakistan has 3 levels of teaching: government colleges and education, or elementary education, the distance education program at one of the universities, and the teacher training courses administered in high schools. After course completion, which takes about a year, the teachers graduate with a primary teaching certificate. The downfalls of receiving that is the curriculum while taking the course is a huge overload for the educators, and it does not improve the teacher's knowledge in the particular subjects. The next area is funding. Children are entitled to free, quality education no matter what their background is, but one of the biggest issues for schools in developing nations is the lack of funding to support them. According to UNESCO, almost $8 billion is needed to ensure that all young students in developing nations are able to attend elementary school. Over 200 million students aged 15 to 24 have not even completed primary school because of their city and their school where they grew up, just simply because they don't have funding to support the school. In Africa, over 54% of students do not attend school that are females. This is an extraordinarily high number. Citizens of developing nations cannot afford the cost of school fees, books, transportation, and other materials. This is one huge reason why the students do not attend school. Parents blame the fees and other payments as to why they stop sending their students to school. It's because of the burden. It's too much of a burden for them to pay. Some governments do not have the resources to provide free education because there is a large untaxed shadow economy and their tax base is small, or because the tax administration and collection is ineffective. Corruption is one of the huge reasons that may prevent funding to go directly to schools. For example, in Mali in the 1990s, spending on primary education rose drastically, but the quality declined as the school enrollment reached over 60%. There was a delay in the donor funding, which led to increased enrollment, but parents were still expected to contribute school supplies and labor to their students. There was a similar situation in Uganda as well. Another huge issue that schools in developing nations are facing is that students are not attending school after they finish primary school. So basically they just finish primary school, but they don't go on to finish secondary school or other advanced classes. Almost 2/3 of children from Africa are unable to attend secondary school. The families of the students of these developing countries blame the cost of tuition, uniforms, and other school supplies as to why they don't attend. The problem with not completing secondary schools are so bad in Ghana that only 50% of the children graduate from the 5th grade. That's according to refining education in the developing world. The students not only attend grade 5 are now limited to math, reading, and overall life skills. They will not be able to read as well as students in developing countries such as the United States. The students in these countries, such as Ghana, are only helping the cycle of poverty, since they're not continuing to get a good education, and they will inevitably pass that on to their children who will not get a good education, and so on. In conclusion, the 3 main reasons why schools in developing nations are not at the same level of compatibility to schools in developing countries such as the United States is due to inadequate teacher training, the lack of funding, and students not attending secondary school. In order to successfully learn, students need qualified teachers, school supplies to complete their homework, and have to attend school all the way through graduation. If students have these ideas of schooling, then this will help lead them to more productive lives. If developing nations could just focus on these 3 simple things, then their education systems would be more compatible with those of developed nations.